It is no longer I who live, but it is Christ who lives in me. But how did I come up with this? Because I was crucified with him. What is crucifixion? Dying with the Lord. What is death, biblically speaking? Self-denial. No longer me, it's the Lord. I no longer live for myself, I live for the Lord Jesus. When there is a multitude, that means there is a lot of people. When there is a multitude, do you hear voices or do you hear a voice? What would you say? Come on. When there is a multitude, do you hear voices or a voice? Voices, isn't it? But hang on. John the Beloved says, after these things I heard a voice, one voice, but coming from where? From a great multitude. What are you trying to tell us here, John the Beloved? When multitudes speak, there is voices, not one. He says, no, but I heard one. Whoa. Why one? Because he said, the angel took me to show me the bride of Christ, and he took me to heaven. Now we're talking about heaven. Chapter 18, talking about the desert, the harlot woman. Chapter 19, talking about heaven. 18, losing hope. 19, gaining hope. But John says, I heard one voice coming from a multitude of people. John the Beloved wants to tell us about the way of heaven and the way of earth. He's trying to teach us something. I'll give you an example. Let's say 1,000 people enter a church. They enter the church, 1,000 people. These 1,000 people, each one is unique. Each one has their own identity, their own DNA. Each one's fingerprint is different totally to the one sitting next to them. So, and each one has their own self, which is me, I am. So when 1,000 people enter the church and each one enters as me, me, me. How many people enter? 1,000. When they speak, how many voices we hear? 1,000. When they think, how many thoughts we can see? 1,000 thoughts, because each one is unique, individual, totally different, separated to the other. When every one out of this 1,000 people enter as me, how many me entered? 1,000 me. And each me is different to the other me. So when I speak differently to the other. So when all of us speak, there is 1,000 voices, there is 1,000 thoughts, there is 1,000 ways. Imagine this on the other hand. 1,000 people enter the church and say, not me, but Christ. 1,000 people enter, and every single one of them says, not me, but Christ. When they all talk, how many voices will you hear? One. How many thoughts? One. How many ways? One. When every one of them says, not me, but Christ. I think you're getting the drift now. So John the Beloved says, and after these things I heard a voice, one voice of a great multitude in heaven. He's trying to say to all of us, all those who are in heaven are all one Christ. That's why there was one voice. Because all who are in heaven, they all say, not me, but Christ. So if there is 1 trillion people in heaven, all of them said, not me, but Christ. That's why they are in heaven. Are you with me? So when that trillion, zillion number of people, all of them said, every single one of them said, not me, but Christ. When they all spoke, Christ spoke. And how many Christ is there? One. How many voices of Christ is there? One. How many ways of Christ is there? One. I am the way. The, not a way, the way. So to Christ there is only one way, one thought, one voice, one person. And after these things I heard a loud voice coming from a multitude in heaven. Wow. He's showing us the way of heaven and the way of earth. All people of heaven, their thoughts, their words are not me but Christ. All they think of is Christ. All they talk about is Christ. That's why it's one voice. And Galatians 2:20, St. Paul puts it so beautifully. I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. It is no longer I who live, but it is Christ who lives in me. But how did I come up with this? Because I was crucified with Him. What is crucifixion? Dying with the Lord. What is death, biblically speaking? Self-denial. No longer me, it's the Lord. I no longer live for myself, I live for the Lord Jesus. This is heaven. I no longer live for myself, I live for the Lord Jesus. Now the question is, why do we have issues here on earth? Because everybody says me. If it wasn't for me, there wouldn't have been any issues. The mother comes to the daughter, let's go to church. I don't want. I don't want. I don't care you're my mom, but I don't want. Because the daughter is living for herself, not for her mom. The son is living for himself, not for his dad. The brother is living for himself, not for his sister, and vice versa. The husband living for himself, not for his wife, and vice versa. That's why nothing happens on earth but problems. Anybody home? Why is the church in turmoil? The ultimate, I know there are other issues, but the ultimate issue is me. The church divided because of me, not because your theology is not like my theology. You know, just pack yourself and go home. The moment we fix me and your me, we'll have Christ as me. We won't have a problem. We won't have a problem. My goodness. We won't have a problem. So why do we have issues on earth? Because of me. Heaven has no issues. Earth is full of issues and problems. You're gonna like this one. I'll give you an example. Husband and wife. I love you. Both. Husband and wife. The wife comes complaining. The wife comes complaining, maybe to the church. Father, I want to divorce my husband. Why, Habibi? Why, my darling? I've had enough of him. He doesn't listen to me. He doesn't do what I say. I'm not happy. If you notice, from the word go till the end of her talk or his talk, doesn't matter. From the word go till they finish their talk, it's all about me. I'm not happy. I've had enough. That's it. I've decided. I don't care anymore. It's all about me. My beloved daughter. Actually, I mentioned this once to one of my beloved daughters when they came whinging and complaining about her husband. She finished. I let them talk. I give them their space. After they finished, I said, my daughter, I'll ask you a couple of questions. Yeah, Father. I said, did you marry this man whom you are complaining and whinging about? Did you marry this man freely, willingly, with no force, external force, forcing you to marry this man? Yeah, Father, I married him. It was my choice. Nobody influenced me. Okay. So now, who's the fool here? Daughter, another question. When you came to marry this Assyrian man with the big nose, did anyone tell you you are marrying a saint? No. So what are you whinging about? You're complaining about someone who is not perfect, exactly like you, not perfect. Because if you were perfect, you would have married someone that would never hurt you. And you would have married someone who was a saint, not a sinner. So it looks like your choice was not perfect. So now who are we to blame here? You? Him? It's all about me. Actually, Father, my mother is not happy with him. Here comes the mother-in-law. This is not about marriage, okay? So I'll move on. I'll come out of politics and I'll go back to the real deal now. But you get the drift? Okay. The issue on earth is one thing, not many things. The issue on earth is the word me. 2 letters, M-E. And it can be 1 letter, I. This is the issue, my beloved. Now, if we stop saying me, 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 earth would have been heaven. Can we live heaven on earth? Yeah. When can we live heaven on earth? When the day comes, me is no longer in existence. I can have heaven on earth. I can actually live heaven on earth. When Christ came, He brought heaven. But the problem, I entered heaven with me. Doesn't work. Because when I enter heaven with me, guess what? Christ says it's only me. He talks, I talk. He talks, I talk. Problems. Why is the church in division? Because me didn't listen to Christ. The leader did it his way, and Christ was not happy with it. That's why the church was destroyed. Was destroyed, my beloved.